Welcome to Saba, a 5-square-mile island of the Dutch Caribbean. Saba is surrounded by diverse coral reefs and marine life. The marine ecosystems are some of the healthiest in the world, and we want to make sure we work to sustain the coral reefs and underwater ecosystems. Coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean, but they have an abundance of uses. They provide recreational tourism, discoveries for modern medicine, homes for 25% of the ocean's organisms, and food for millions of humans. Coral reefs have received much abuse in the last century. The world's population of coral is expected to shrink even more in the next 50 years as sea levels rise and our oceans become more polluted. These factors, coupled with human impacts, have created a difficult environment for corals. One of the main ways to sustain the reefs is a coral nursery. A coral nursery is the early stage of restoration in which small fragments of coral are grown and ultimately transplanted onto damaged reefs. Since the 1990s, scientists and conservationists have attempted various methods to mend the damage caused by coral disease, sedimentation, anchors, dynamiting, storms, and algae overgrowth. More than 70 countries are now successfully using coral nurseries to repair and enhance their natural reefs, and now we have a coral nursery on Saba. There are many different types of coral nurseries, but Saba's is an open water floating nursery. It was constructed using PVC, then suspended using a weight on one end and a buoy on the other. This allows the corals to be kept off the bottom and out of the moving sediment, as well as away from potential predators. It is located 100 meters east of the first yacht mooring between Wells Bay and Ladder Bay, because this area has easy access and it also has a sandy bottom. Saba's nursery has 5 different types of coral: staghorn, elkhorn, brain, finger, and pillar. These types of coral are commonly seen on other reefs around Saba, and they are the most common base for the structure of a coral reef. We get the coral by finding fragments that have been broken off of the reef. The nurseries on Saba have low cost of assembly. All we need to assemble and arrange the corals on the nursery is a fishing line that we tie around the coral, and a zip tie to ensure that the coral does not move on the PVC pipe. We then tie the string on the nursery in between zip ties and then number each coral in order to keep an organized nursery. We organize the coral reef using a simple method. The trees are labeled A through G, while the branches of the tree are labeled 1 through 10, starting at the top branch. Each individual coral is numbered starting at 1 and going up to 100. We then measure the height and width of the individual pieces using an L-square ruler. We record the data for each coral number on slates in order to track the progress and growth of the coral throughout time. We must properly take care of and clean these nurseries in order for the corals to have the best environment to grow in. Ideally, you should check the nursery on a weekly basis to make sure the PVC pipe structure and strings are well maintained. We should clean our nursery on Saba once every week in the first 3 to 4 months, and then after that once every 2 weeks to ensure the algae and other organisms do not build up and stunt coral growth. Cleaning can take about 40 minutes or less depending on how many divers are cleaning. We use simple brushes and pads to clean the PVC pipes, strings, and corals. We gently shake the strings to ensure the removal of any excess algae and sediment residue. If you would like to help Saba Conservation Foundation and Marine Park, see Saba and Samford University in their efforts to keep the underwater ecosystems of Saba healthy and beautiful, You can volunteer with these organizations and dive consciously.